Welcome back to the Paranoid Perspective. I am Jake.
And I'm Sarah.
Today we're going to get back to the real world, and this is more of like I like to call it like the murder mystery. It has some spooky things along
Mm,
with it, but it's definitely more within that realm of reality. So, what are we talking about
yeah.
today, Sarah?
We're talking about Elisa Lam and her, well, disappearance, but they found her later. It was just weird, so we're gonna get into it. But the weird case.
Well, she was
Um,
she was missing.
yeah,
So
she
so
was
that is
missing.
right.
Yes, and then she was found, and it was just very bizarre, the sequence of events. So we're gonna get into that. So Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old Canadian college student. She was
Hey.
attending the University of British Columbia, and she was one of two daughters from an immigrant family from Hong Kong, and her parents owned a Chinese restaurant. And she also posted a lot on Tumblr, like it was her diary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was helpful later to kind of figure out what happened
I always
or
thought
an
that was
idea.
I thought that was kind of odd though. Like I guess I never maybe I'm biased because I never really got onto Tumblr, but that doesn't seem like something I
Yeah.
would be posting to all the time. But I mean, teach their own, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of like long form Twitter.
Sure.
Just say
Yeah.
whatever you want. But yeah, I wasn't super into Tumblr either. But so in this happened in 2013, so it's been a while. But she decided to go on a solo trip to tour California, because she really wanted to, see the world, get out there. She's 21. She's never really been anywhere else except like Vancouver, so she wanted to travel. Her plan was to start in San Diego, then go to LA, and then she would end up in Santa Cruz and then go home.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty typical trip, like especially your early 20s, you want to go out and see the world, some people might go to Europe or whatever and just kind of bounce around,
Yeah.
but that's a pretty normal thing I think for most young people to want to go do.
Yeah. I think her family was a little worried about her going like solo, but they agreed
Well,
for her to go.
yeah, I mean, anybody going solo, even to a different,
Yeah.
well, she is going to a different country, but I mean, it's not really like a dramatically different country. But, being by yourself, in somewhere you don't know is always kind of risky.
Yeah, and like the first time she's on her own, so that's understandable to be a little worried. But she arrived in LA on January 26, 2013. So she took the Amtrak train from San Diego up there. And then she chose to stay at the Cecil Hotel in
Bad
LA.
idea.
Yeah, which she doesn't know anything about. The Cecil is not a great place.
No, it's a paradise in, that area of the country. It's one of the best places you could ever be.
Yeah. Well, so a little background on the Cecil for anyone who doesn't know. It was built in 1924. It was supposed to be a grand luxury hotel.
It
Then,
is.
yeah, a few years later was the Great Depression. So they never recovered like the money from building
Mm,
it. So then they had to, sell it cheaper or have more long-term residents as like an alternative to apartments. And so this like drew people who like couldn't pay a deposit or maybe couldn't pass a background check. Like it became not a great place.
right.
But then also like travelers who maybe don't know any better or looking for a cheap place to stay, they also stay there. And it does have 700 rooms. So it's huge.
So I didn't know that prior to this.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it was a big place, but that's like, I was expecting not even half of that, that amount of
Yeah.
rooms.
Right. I mean, it's almost like three separate buildings are like connected
Right.
through
Yeah.
like walkways. So that's like it's crazy how big it is. But yeah, so the Cecil is also in like the worst area of LA. It's one of the most dangerous and violent places. It's called Skid Row.
Down on Skid Row. That's for the
Yeah.
older audience.
Yeah, older than me.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. Yeah, which is so that's a 56 block area in downtown LA. And I guess it's one of the poorest places in like the whole world.
Yeah.
So it's not a good place. And also, almost all of the assistances for homelessness, like the shelters and missions, are in that one place because they wanted, to basically have everyone like stuck in that area. So it became like kind of a dumping ground,
Yeah.
for society's unwanted, I guess, for
Yeah,
lack of a better term, but
yeah, it's one of those where I feel like everything they just kind of wanted to have everything kind of contained in that area and make the rest of that area seem, better than what it is. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, and so there's a lot of mentally ill people or like people who just got out of prison, like stuff like that, or experiencing homelessness for whatever reason.
Right.
And it's kind of a free for all in that area. Like you can buy drugs, the cops don't really care, you can sleep on the streets, whatever. That's where Elisa ended up, which
Solid choice.
um yeah, well, I would say, well, I forgot about this part. The manager that was there at the time that Elisa went missing, she was there from 2007 to 2017, so 10 years.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm surprised she stayed that
Yeah,
long.
that's impressive.
Yeah, but she said there were thousands of calls to the police during those 10 years because
Yeah.
of like all the people at the Cecil too. And she said there were 80 deaths
Yeah. So
for that time.
I like that we're covering this because there's a lot of like ghost and paranormal stuff that has been talked about at the Cecil, and I'm glad we're doing
Yeah,
this to kind of give some background on the overall hotel. I would definitely like to cover that because, dude, there are
yeah,
so many people that have died in this area of
right.
California. It's not
Yeah.
just at the Cecil, but just in the area. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, and also at the Cecil, like
Yeah.
there's been a lot of suicides there too and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And the documentary I watched, they said it was so the Cecil specifically was considered a place for serial killers to let their hair down.
Well,
So like it's
everybody,
trying.
look, a hard day of just murdering people, you need a place to put your feet up and, relax
Yeah,
for a little
and
bit.
feel comfortable,
Yeah,
right?
just
And
surrounded
that's
by
the
your own.
Cecil.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so a lot of people think it's a nexus of evil as well.
Yeah.
Or like haunted, of
Yeah.
course, but it just draws bad things to it. So yeah, she stayed there. But during the time that she chose to stay there, the Cecil was broken into two different hotels basically. So they rebranded part of it to be called Stay on Main, which was
Mm.
floors 4 through 6. So it was marketed as like a trendy hostel, like
You're
specifically for
right.
travelers.
Yeah.
And like that it had its own lobby entrance, which looked like super nice and stuff. So it was like totally separate, except you had to share the elevators still. So you
I
still like
see.
ran into the people who lived there
Mm.
or were having mental health issues or whatever, but like travelers don't know that, so they end up there. And it was also like $85 a night. So, if you're a college student, it says it's a hostel, you share rooms with other people, you're gonna like end up there.
I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna meet so many interesting people, okay? Because this is, we're gonna have such a great time. We're gonna meet so many new friends, and they're gonna tell me about their days and all the people they've killed. It's gonna be great, fantastic.
Well, floors 4 through 6
Well,
are
yeah,
just for stay on main,
yep,
but yeah, in the other areas, yeah, you would run into people. Not the best place, but that's kind of how she chose to stay there because it was almost like she was duped. I mean, a lot of people
sure,
were not necessarily duped, but because the hotel's trying to change itself and stuff too.
yeah.
But yeah, she ended up in not the safest area and she didn't necessarily know. So she stayed on floor 5 of
Oh,
the
so
Cecil.
kind of like right in the middle of that, like stay on main thing, or kind of towards the top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so which the Cecil itself is like 15 floors.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it has a lot of like other residents still. So she gets to LA January 26th. She plans to stay for 4 days, so she would check out February 1st. And she explores the city like anyone else would during the day. I don't know if she went out at night because you'd get killed out there at
Well,
night, but
I mean, why wouldn't she though? You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, maybe if she saw all the people sleep on the streets and fights.
It's all right.
Yeah. But she visits the last bookstore, which is like a famous bookstore in that area, which like the lady there later said she remembered Elisa and like said Elisa was very friendly and like talking about her family and stuff, but she was asking like for book recommendations. It was like a very normal interaction.
Right.
And so, and then she also went to a live audience production.
That's fun.
So, yeah, in Burbank. And she called her parents every day while she was like on the trip to kind of share what she did that day. So like everything seemed normal, although there were a couple complaints about her in the 4 days that she stayed there. So first at the live audience production, apparently she wrote like a long rambling letter and like demanded to give it to the host. Like she wanted to give it. And then the security escorted her off the property.
Solid. What was the
So,
show, do
yeah.
you know? What was the
Oh,
whole...
I couldn't figure out what it was.
Hmm.
But I mean, it was in Burbank, but so many things are in
Well,
Burbank. It's
yeah, I mean, you're not gonna know.
yeah, I'm not sure what the show was. But so she maybe seems a little erratic though then. But
That's not that's not really too bad. I mean, people are
yeah,
fans of whatever. She was obviously a fan of whatever the live for production was, and maybe being there in person, she might have that might have been her shot. You know,
right.
I've been around some people that I have said some really stupid stuff to, and I shouldn't have when, in that like fanboy mode, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah. And she's 21. I
yeah.
mean, it makes sense that she'd be excited. But then at the Cecil, she had been sharing a room with a group of girls as like a hostel situation. And
Hmm.
I guess those girls complained about her erratic behavior. And they said she was leaving notes on their beds that said, like, go away, go home, get out, like stuff like that. So she did end up being moved to a private room on the night before she was going to check out. So on January 31st, she's in a private room. And then later that night on the 31st, she went down to the hotel lobby and she yelled something, I guess. Like she said, I'm crazy, but so is LA, with like her hands in the air. So I don't
She's
know.
she's just getting acclimated to the people she's around, okay? She's just trying to embrace the
Yeah,
culture.
she feels freedom too for the
Exactly.
first time. I mean, who knows? And obviously, like it's the Cecil. Like no one
No,
thought of anything. No one looked at her like any. They were like, okay, whatever.
it's just another Tuesday.
Yeah. Um, But then the next day, February 21st, she does not call her family. And so they call the police because it was unusual that she hadn't called because she called every single day. And she was also supposed to check out on February 1st, but she doesn't check out. So it turned out that January 31st was the last day she was seen alive. So then they started looking for her, and like the police were called and everything. But the hotel ended up removing all of her personal belongings though, because she was supposed to check out. So they like put it in storage and clean the room. If you like don't pay or whatever, just leave.
Well, I wonder how
So
many
like,
that has to happen all the time there though. Like that's
yeah,
probably such a common thing that they just, oh, yeah, somebody just dipped town again and left all their shit. Let's just go ahead and throw it downstairs in the
right.
basement.
Yeah, and they have to keep it for like 30 days and then they
Sure.
throw it out or
Yeah.
whatever. So police couldn't see like the room that she was in though, since they had already cleaned it.
Mm,
But they did look at her possessions and like she left her laptop, she left prescription medications, she left her wallet, like all of her clothing, like literally everything was left.
right.
So it was kind of like, well, what happened to her then? And the employee who cleaned her room said like the room was messy, but it didn't look like there was any forced entry or like drugs or anything. But like the police couldn't look, obviously, so they just had to take the employee's word on it.
Right.
But investigators got all of the names of like literally everyone that was staying there, which
All
would be a lot of
700 of
people.
them.
Yeah. And like all the employees, which at the time there were like 50 employees, and they also like got like past employees information as well.
Yeah, so you're talking
Like,
like 1,000 plus probably people that you're trying to track.
right. And they spoke to like the night employees for like that night for the
Hmm.
31st to be like, did you see her or anything? Which one of them did say they saw her in like an area where guests aren't allowed. And they like told her like you can't be back here and you have to leave. And then she like ended up walking toward the elevators to like leave. And that's the last time like that employee saw them, I guess. They didn't say like what time that was, but investigators did get info from like her social media since she posted like all the time. It
Right.
was a diary. So they saw her itinerary and like where she was gonna go. And then they found out she was like meeting strangers too. So they're trying to like figure out who those people were and like why she was meeting with them, or if like she had known them on the internet and like went to California to meet them or
No,
anything like that.
probably just being young and free, meeting
Yeah.
people down on Skid Row. Best kind of people you could meet.
Yeah. Yeah. And then investigators looked at the security footage, and this is where they see like the strange like elevator video that like I think at this point a lot of people have seen. If
Yeah,
not, I'll like link it in the description, but
that video is like the first time I saw it. Of course, if you watch it on YouTube and they have spooky music behind it,
mm,
yeah, you're gonna think that, there's some sort of malevolent force that's making her do this. Based off of what we've kind of gone through so far, I think she was probably just a little bit unhinged
yeah,
in that video. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, probably just a little bit. We'll get into it. But
Yeah.
yeah, but they do see that she never left the hotel. So at this point
Hmm.
they know like she has to be somewhere there. So February 12th, so it's been like almost 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
investigators like searched the entire hotel at this point. So they brought in 18 police officers to like look at literally every single like closet, every like open every door, like everything. And they also brought in scent tracking dogs. And I guess one of the dogs ended up going to like a window on the fifth floor that led to the fire escape, but then they lost her scent there.
Mm,
So she might have gone up on the fire escape. But they also searched the roof and they said they found nothing. So the next day, there was like a new investigation opened that like took away all the detectives from the case. So it went from like 18 to 4 investigators. So they're
yeah.
kind of starting over. They didn't find anything. So they did release like the elevator video to the public on the 13th, which I don't know. I was going to describe a little bit, I guess, for people who haven't seen it. But like in the video, the elevator door opens, she walks in, she presses all the buttons like down one of the columns, and she seems kind of like cheery, like happy. And then she's waiting for the door to close and it doesn't. So she goes to the door and pokes out her head. And then she looks left and right like really fast. Then she steps back in. And then she moves to like the side and then the corner to like, so people are saying she's hiding or something.
Right.
And then she ends up doing like a little hop like out of the elevator door again. And then she like steps to the left, like very, I don't know, like a square dance
And then
almost
she
is
took it
what
back now,
people,
y'all.
yeah. And then she went back in the elevator. And then she steps out again though, but then like she's standing off to the left and you can like barely see her, but you can see like her hand and
Right.
like she kind of well, she does step back in with like her hands on her head and then presses all the buttons again like multiple times. And then she steps out again where she's like running her hands through her hair. And then she starts doing like that motion with her hands where
Yeah.
it looks like she's talking to someone almost or talking to herself.
That's what it like. So people have said that, like, if you want to get like down the real spooky rabbit hole, that she's like being possessed and this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And it looks to me like she's either talking to someone that made her very upset, or she is mentally not well and she is talking to herself and making these kinds of gestures, you know?
Right. And like she's berating herself or something,
Right.
maybe. Or, yeah. Yeah. And then she ends up just walking off to the left. And then eventually the doors close and like open on all the floors because she pressed all the buttons.
Right. Douche.
Yeah. But the police released the whole thing where it's like opening and closing the door like the whole time, too. So it was like weird. Like, why did you release all of that? I don't know.
Right.
Also, like, how is there not another like video from the hallway or something?
Well, I've thought about that too, because you would think if there's video in the elevator, they would have more sort of CCT somewhere else. But I mean, honestly, man, like the hotel is, like you said at the beginning, has never really recovered from it. It's not in a good area. They probably don't have any money to maintain the current infrastructure that they currently have. You know what I mean? So there
Yeah.
there might be
Right.
cameras in the hallway, but I mean, for all you know, one of these, you know, long-term residents could have got mad one night and kicked the shit out of them, and broke them. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. That's true. Yeah, and everyone who's like stayed there, they said like the lobby is so nice, and then when you get to the hallway and the rooms, it looks like it's the 80s. Like
I
nothing's
believe
been
it.
updated.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that could make sense. But also in the video, like the timestamp is like really hard to see, and it looks like it's been corrupted or like damaged somehow. So,
Hmm.
again, people are like, this is evidence that was tampered with, or like, I don't know. But it could just be, again, that it's like super old. I don't know. I mean, it kind of looks like Alien script though, with it,
Right.
how bad it looks. And then, of course, like there's all the internet sleuth people or whatever that are gonna analyze the video because it went to the public. And someone said the video was slowed down like 33% or 35%,
Yeah. I
which
mean,
makes it look more strange than it is, like her
sure.
motions.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I
It,
don't.
like she had to have been moving like 33% or like whatever. That's a significant like
Yeah.
slowdown. Like you would see like weird, like especially with the camera that it is older, you would see these like weird pixelated things start happening at that point, which you
Mm.
kind of do, but I don't think that's really attributed to slowing down that footage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, the video was cut when the elevator door first closes, like, 'cause it's like open and it like jumps to like this far and then
Hmm.
closes. So some people said that that was tampered with and maybe like someone walked by or something and whatever, a cover up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is weird that it like skips there, but
Sure. Yeah.
and and people said like when they analyzed the timestamp and like somehow could see the numbers or whatever, they said 53 seconds disappeared, like when that cuts. So I don't know. But that does lead to weird theories.
Yeah.
And that people think maybe someone at the hotel did something.
Well, and see, that's where, based off of where we're at so far, I mean, that's like the most likely scenario, right?
Yeah, if she never left.
If she never left, you're in a yeah, the first, 4 or 5 floors are, just travelers, but who knows who you have living above you in those other, 9 to 10 floors, you know what I mean, or however many there
Yeah.
are. And like you said, you have to share elevators, so I'm guarantee you she
Hmm.
interacted in those, what, 4 or 5 days she was there with a bunch of people on those elevators. I mean, you have no
Yeah.
idea.
And also, someone who like went to the hotel later and looked at the buttons and everything, like based on how she pressed them and stuff, they said she was on the 14th floor, which was like right below the roof. So she was like on the floors with these other people, like not just the traveler floors or whatever.
Yeah, the long-term residents.
Yeah. So she could have been interacting with someone there or whatever, just exploring. But yeah, the police, when I first saw the video though, they like saw everything. So I would assume they would, if someone was in the video at the end, they would have like looked into that. But,
Well, sure.
so at the same time that this is going on, that they're looking for not finding anything, guests are complaining about the water pressure and also the color, that it was like a dark brown.
And I think I smell it.
Yeah. And the documentary I saw, they had one couple that was from England who like went on holiday and ended up staying there at the same time and like complaining about the color and the taste of the water because they were drinking it. And
First of all, who the fuck is drinking tap water?
I don't know.
I
They're from
want to.
England. They
I
don't
don't.
know better.
I don't care. Dude, I'm not going to no nasty ass fucking hotel and drinking the
Yeah.
fucking tap water. Prime
Especially
example.
if it's brown
Exactly. Exactly.
and LA, just in general, LA. I don't know.
God damn it. It's so
But
fucking
yeah, they
gross.
didn't know any better. Okay, well, okay, so maintenance ended up checking the water tanks on the roof, which there's 4 water tanks, and like for one of them, there's a ladder that leads up like into the tank, and each tank has a hatch on top, which the hatch isn't like hinged or anything, it's just like a lid you take off and put back on. So when the maintenance worker checked this particular water tank, the hatch was open and Elisa Lam was in the tank. And she was naked, which this was on February 19th that they finally found her,
Yeah, so
and she had drowned.
we're looking at 20 almost 20 days of her possibly being in there.
Yes. Yeah. And the tank is 10 feet tall, and at that time it was three-fourths full. So, like, if she had fallen in, there was no way to get out.
Right.
And yeah, according to investigators, when they first arrived on the scene, the hatch was closed, but like that was because the maintenance worker closed it since she was
Well,
naked.
yeah. I mean,
So that, yeah, he
that
had,
would be terrifying if you're
yeah.
just trying to show up, do your job. You're like, damn it,
Mm,
something's up with these pipes. I'm going to have to get in here and drain this tank or clean this something out and whatever. And you open up or you look in and there's a body. Yeah, you're probably going to be scared shitless and shut that lid because you don't want to look at that.
right. Yeah. But police, since they said that it was closed, the hinge was, or the lid was closed, that caused a lot of conspiracy at first because they were like,
Well,
she wouldn't have been able to close it.
sure.
So it
Yeah.
was kind of a little mismanagement that they said that. But it was open when they found her. But yeah, so she was floating face up, and her clothes were in the bottom of the tank, which is the same one she wore in the elevator video. So
Hmm.
like it's pretty likely that that's when she like fell in at some point between like well the night of January 1st. So
Right.
she had been in there for 19 days. And I just can't imagine people like showering in that and stuff.
And drinking the motherfucking water.
Yeah, I wouldn't be drinking.
Like,
Like you said, it's a hotel and stuff. Yeah.
good God.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, they couldn't exactly confirm that she was there. I mean, they just assumed because of the clothing and stuff, but like because of the temperature fluctuations and stuff of the water, like they couldn't confirm with like how decomposed she was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, the main cause of death seems to be drowning. But like, how did she end up in there?
Hmm.
Why? And also, I guess they said usually in a drowning, the body is face down, which in this case, she was face up. So the at first also indicated like foul play. But also like this water is constantly being like cycled and used. So like that could have
Oh,
generated
could
like
have,
bubbles and
yeah,
stuff.
churned up and flipped her over.
Yeah. So yeah, they shut down the hotel, obviously, and they reassigned all the guests to other hotels.
Thank God.
And investigators also, they were like, she wasn't in there when they searched because they searched the roof and they were like confident that they didn't like miss it.
Well,
So, yeah, I think they're just covering
I mean,
themselves.
I hate to say it in that sort of area and where there's such like high crime and whatnot, most of
Yeah.
those police officers and public servants are stretched so thin that they probably are just overlooking things, not intentionally, but there's so much work happening in that job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In those types of areas. So I wouldn't, knock those guys for not paying attention to it. Because I mean, really, you're looking for somebody that's missing, you're not thinking they're going to be in a tank. You know what I mean? Right off the top
Yeah.
of your head. You're going to look the
Right.
roof and you're going to be like, up, not up here. Okay, good to go.
Yeah, and I think the roof was one of the last place they looked, and they like looked at the whole hotel in like one night. So it was like
Yeah,
16 hours or something. Yeah, it
yeah.
was a long time. So it's understandable. But yeah, they did investigate it as a homicide at first. They fingerprinted everything, but there was like nothing that pointed towards a suspect. And there was nothing to support a crime of violence occurred either.
Hmm.
So yeah, I already said that. Well, so they don't really know how she like got roof access, I guess. I mean, there is the fire escape, which she could have done that. But it is like a unprotected ladder, like just to get from the 14th floor to the roof.
Hmm.
So it's like you'd have to, I don't know, I guess she's brave enough to do
Yeah, I
it.
mean, honestly, I mean, if you're going a little crazy, I don't think you're going to be worried about, a ladder going up to the roof. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But there's also stairs. For the roof access, you need a key to open it, which only like employees have, or the door alarm will go off,
Okay.
which the police said the door alarm was working properly at that time because they checked it. Because, I mean, you'd think people it doesn't work or something.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume it didn't, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and also, like, on the roof, there's, like, a lot of graffiti and, like, cigarette butts and beer bottles. So people are getting on the roof. Like, it's pretty easy to
So
access, I
the
feel like.
ladder's not that scary, and or
Yeah.
the security system on the door might not work all the time.
Right. Or yeah, you could bypass it maybe or
Right.
something. Yeah. Um, Also, I guess on her social media, she has a lot of photos of cityscapes from like rooftops or other high
So
places.
she'd
So
been up
like
there.
that's a place, yeah. Like she's comfortable with that. So I could definitely believe she got up there somehow, like whatever way she got up there, like on her own. But yeah, they did find footage as well of like she came to the hotel with two guys and they like exchanged a box. Like they gave her a box and then they left and she brought it into the hotel. But that was a dead end because it ended up being from the last bookstore and they like delivered books
I
to her,
see.
I
Yeah.
guess. And it took
Well,
two
that's
people
nice.
to do for some reason. Yeah. But yeah, the two men, they never saw them come back. So it's not like they came back later seeing that she
Yeah.
was alone or whatever. And yeah, during the autopsy, there was no indication of sexual assault. There was no evidence of like internal or external damages. So like they did kind of rule it as a drowning because there was no other damages, but they didn't provide like the cause of death right away. They like wanted to wait for the toxicology results,
That's
which
fair.
that took months to get,
Yeah,
which is
that's
weird.
yeah, that it does take a minute, but it's not you're not going to be waiting, 90 days for something like that, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah, it took months for them to release it to the public.
Well, no, no, no,
Then
I know.
that caused,
Yeah.
yeah. That caused more like conspiracy because like why are you holding on to this and not sharing or whatever. And when it did come out to the public, it said that there was no evidence that she took any party drugs, like that she was out of her mind on like LSD or something.
Lame.
um but they did see that her doses, she's bipolar, and her bipolar medications were lower than they should have been, like in her blood,
Uh,
so she wasn't taking them properly. And like they also checked the medications that were left behind, and like there were more pills than there should have been if she was taking it properly. So that was another like she was definitely not taking them as she should have been.
mhm.
And she had four medications, which were an antidepressant, a mood stabilizer, and an atypical antipsychotic.
Well then,
Yeah.
might want to be taking those.
Right. Yeah. And like she would post on her Tumblr that she hated she had to take it every day and stuff. And, so if she's on her own for the first time, then yeah, maybe she thinks she's fine.
I'm gonna do what
She's
I
not gonna
want.
take it. Right. Yeah. So June 21st, which that's like a crazy amount of time
Right.
between, like, but that's when the results were released and the police said it was an accident and they said her bipolar heavily contributed to her death. Like they speculated that she was manic and maybe she was paranoid that someone was following her or something,
Sure.
and she was trying to find a place to hide. And she saw the tank and thought that's a good place to hide and then couldn't get back out. So that's the official ruling. Her family did sue the hotel because they said the hotel roof was too easy to access. And they also said the water tanks should have been locked, which, like, is easy to say in hindsight.
Sure.
But they did end up dropping the case, though, later. So, yeah, then there's like the theories, I
Let's
guess,
get them.
if you
Let's get
don't
them.
believe it was an accident. Well, first was drugs, but obviously not any evidence in the toxicology report.
She actually
So,
had lack of drugs. This is the one time we need drugs.
all right,
Need
yeah,
all the drugs.
yes. I mean, murder was a popular theory for a long time. I guess there's a movie, a Japanese movie called Dark Waters, which came out in the US in 2005, and they thought someone was playing out the movie because it was very similar. I guess in the movie, the main woman has a red jacket, which Elisa Lam was wearing a red jacket. And there's a scene where the water runs black, which is what people were complaining about at the hotel.
Oh,
And then the woman is killed by drowning in a water tank in the movie. So I don't
I,
know. People
I mean,
thought,
maybe, but
I mean,
I've
people thought
never.
there's someone crazy at the hotel though that was like, I don't
Well,
know,
that
obsessed
their
to,
favorite movie is Dark Waters, and they're like, "Oh,
yeah,
sweet, got my opportunity now. I'm gonna play it out."
yeah. They
I
see
mean,
her with her red jacket and they're
don't
like, yes,
don't
perfect.
don't get me wrong. It's the likelihood is not. It's not a 0%. Definitely didn't
Yeah.
happen. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to be very high that that's what it was.
No. Also, there was a guy whose stage name is Morbid, but
Hell yeah.
he's a death metal artist. And he released a song a few days after Elisa's death that talks about a woman dying in water. And he was staying at the Cecil Hotel at the same time as her. So people were like convinced that he killed her just because of his death metal stuff. And like his videos has blood and whatever. And
Yeah,
so
because
they
he's a
harassed him a
death
lot.
metal artist named Morbid. He's gonna write songs about death and killing and blood and
Yeah,
guts and all that. Like, you could probably associate that guy with like anything that, like any murder that had happened there, if you want to like go down that hole.
right. It's weird he was at the Cecil. I don't know why, like what he was doing, but it's just a
Friggin'
coincidence.
getting,
There's like a lot of
he
weird
was getting
coincidences.
inspiration for his
Yeah,
next song,
yeah,
the next
that's
top
true.
hit, "Dying in Water,"
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know the name of the song, but yeah, I mean, murder would be hard to do, I think, in this case, because like to get to the tank she was in, you'd have to walk on pipes and then squeeze between the tanks to go up the ladder, and then you'd have to like open the hatch at the top, and then you'd have to drop her in. Like that's, I don't know how that would happen. Or there is like a landing kind of structure next to the tower or the tank, but you'd still have to climb a ladder up there, and then you'd have to like drop her down from the roof of that because it's above the tank.
Yeah, you're not
And like,
aim for the hole that you're gonna get her body to go into.
right. Yeah, and if
I
she had
mean,
already been killed or unconscious, like dragging a dead body or an unconscious body without causing any bruises or cuts, because she had none of that, like that pretty much rules out that someone murdered her,
yeah.
I think. Ooh, there were a lot of weird conspiracies too. I'm gonna do those first because they're kind of fun before I say what I think actually happened. That's not as fun, I guess, or whatever. It's just a normal. I'm gonna stop saying that because I feel like that's bad to say. Yeah, so there was a government conspiracy about tuberculosis.
Okay.
There was a tuberculosis outbreak in Skid Row at the time she was there, I guess. And days after her body was discovered, there was an outbreak in the hotel. So people thought she had tuberculosis since everyone at the hotel was like, she spread it to them through the water, I guess. So people think she was sent there as a biological weapon with tuberculosis to
Wow.
thin out the homeless population.
What the fuck?
And then the government killed her because she knew too much about it. That
Okay.
that
Okay.
is one of the theories.
Hey, I am here for the government doing biological warfare, okay? There's been some shady shit that's happened where that has probably definitely happened. That being said,
Yeah.
I don't know if the Cecil Hotel in the Skid Row area would be something where they would want to do that because by the amount of crime and whatnot that happens there, I don't think you have to have a
Mm,
biological weapon to thin down the
yeah.
populace of that area. I mean, I'm not trying to be cold or remorseless about it, but I mean, homelessness, you're going to get sick. Tuberculosis or any communicable disease in that situation is going to spread like wildfire regardless. You don't need some
Yeah.
poor 21-year-old from freaking Vancouver to come down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, though, like another like coincidence is that the test for tuberculosis is called the Elisa Lam test, but it's like spelled the same as her name. So it's just, or no, the Lam Eliza. It's
Oh,
flipped.
mm.
So that's
So
weird.
that is weird. But
I mean,
once
there are
again,
like weird coincidences that mean
right.
nothing, but it's weird. Also, I guess the University of British Columbia has a well-known tuberculosis research center, which she was involved in as a student. So that's another reason people were like latched on a little bit to this theory. But yeah, there's nothing real about that.
I don't know. You might have just convinced
Um,
me.
yeah, I mean that she was an inside. Yeah, another weird coincidence that like has nothing to do with anything, but was really weird.
This has nothing to do with anything, but this is weird. Let's go.
The last bookstore that she went to. If you look up their registrar information, there's like a zip code for the mailing address. And if you like put that into Google Maps, it brings up Burnaby, British Columbia. And the pinpoint for that zip code on Google Maps is the cemetery that she's buried in.
They probably did it.
They did it.
They had everything planned from the beginning, from her birth. The last bookstore. I mean, it's a famous bookstore. It's a, they
Yeah,
probably
it's the
got.
last one.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have some like crazy otherworldly books there that, they can just conjure up
Yeah.
people before they're born for specific things, or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, they're only like a couple blocks away from the Cecil and everything. So like,
And they deliver books. You can't beat
yeah,
that kind of
two
service.
people.
Two
Two people
people.
have to do it for one box. Yeah, and of course there's like normal paranormal stuff that she was an evil spirit told her to kill herself or like a ghost drowned her or whatever. There's also the Korean elevator game, which you kind of said earlier, but like apparently you push all the buttons in a way, like a specific sequence that transports you to another dimension, and she was like pressing all the buttons. So maybe she was trying to play that game, but I don't know.
Well,
She didn't go to a
supposedly,
different dimension though.
right. I mean, supposedly with that game though, like when you do get to your other dimension, from what I've heard, I can't remember. I haven't looked this up in a long time, but supposedly a woman will enter the elevator with you or something like that, and if you look
Mm,
at her or talk to her, she'll kill you or something to that effect. I can't remember what exactly it is, but then it's also like if you something about stepping out of the elevator, like you're no longer like I don't know if you can get back or if you I don't know. It's super weird. And like that's the kind of stuff that I kind of like to think about, you know what I mean? Maybe she was playing that elevator game. We were seeing her in this three-dimensional plane that we can observe, but maybe she was in that fourth dimensional plane because she went, to
yeah,
another dimension. I mean,
maybe.
I doubt it, but just playing
It could
devil's
have
advocate.
also Yeah. It could have also pissed off like the paranormal entities there
Very true.
and was like, you're trying to summon this elevator woman. Like,
Hey, we don't like this chick. Get her out of here. You're trying to
right,
summon her?
yeah, I
You're part of the
don't,
problem too. Go on, get. No, but
yep.
I do think, I mean, I think it's one of those things. I do like the paranormal side of stuff. Like some of it's a little too crazy, but when traumatic things happen at places, like you can feel it. You know what I mean? Like there is definitely an energy that is left. Now you could chalk that up to, oh, you're just in a spooky place, or you're letting your mind play tricks on you, or whatever. But I don't know, man. Like, you hear all these people talk about like major battlefields like Gettysburg, and you can just feel
Mhm.
like the weight of it when you get there,
Yeah,
And with as much death as happened at the Cecil, there has to be that sort of vibe to it. I'm not saying it's chock full of ghosts or whatever. Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures is going to come in and expose it all with his, medium shirt and whatnot. But there is something a little bit to that, I feel like.
yeah. The vibes are definitely off.
Right.
Yeah, so let's get to real theory is that this was a psychotic episode from her bipolar disorder because she was not taking the meds as prescribed. And like because of her notes to the hotel guests and like the weird letter or whatever, like maybe she was in a psychotic episode. And I don't know. I guess I don't know much about bipolar, but if she was paranoid, then maybe she was trying to hide and went up to the roof. I mean, maybe she went up to the roof anyway because she likes roofs and like being up high, and then she got paranoid or something and then went in there. But I mean, she could have also committed a suicide, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, the energy there too, it could have brought her down as well. And she already had posted on Tumblr a couple different times about like wanting to kill herself before and saying like, oh, I mean, she always said like, I'll get through in the next day or something, but like just being in the Cecil too, and if she was having an episode, she could have maybe ended up committing suicide. But I feel like she would have left a note or something
Yeah.
or
Yeah. I
posted on Tumblr.
I don't I don't feel like it was an intentional thing on her end. I think she was
Yeah.
probably having a psychotic episode. I think, well, like you said, since she was off her meds, she went up to the roof. to try to probably get some air or enjoy the cityscape or something like that. Started exploring, and if that hatch was open, I mean, it could have been at night, and she maybe didn't see it and fell in.
Okay.
And for anybody that's fell into water that's over your head with clothes on, it would make sense why you would want to get your clothes off to try to help you swim better and possibly get out of that tank.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's kind of probably what happened. Like what the police said, and that's I think what most people agree with now that they know that her medication was off.
Yeah,
Or I mean the water was cold too. Like she could have had hypothermia as well and like taken off her
yeah,
clothes then.
yeah. Like one of the things we talked about for the Dyatlov Pass of why they had all their clothes missing was that's one of the symptoms of late stages of hypothermia is you start to feel warm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think it's anything nefarious. I don't think anybody killed
No.
her. I don't think it's, the evil aspect. I mean, that's so like up to interpretation. I mean,
Mm,
is there evil there? Probably. There have been a lot of bad things happen at the Cecil and just a lot of negative energy. And I don't think that really goes away. But I think the main contributing factor was her bipolar and being off her
yeah.
meds. Like
Right.
there's nothing really else to
Yeah.
think about there.
Yeah, it's just sad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's one of those where I have done in the past of like dug into like the ghost side of things with the Cecil Hotel, and there are some interesting stories associated with that, but I don't think this is one of them. I think this is just unfortunately a young woman that succumbed to mental illness, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the elevator video like just gave it more of a paranormal spooky vibe than was like actually happening.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, if you're watching something on YouTube, they have music that's slow and ominous. Well, yeah, that's the feeling you're gonna have based off the music. That's
You're
what's
right.
eliciting the response. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah,
watch
if it
that,
was cheery video, yeah.
yeah, you would
Cheery
think,
music.
man, this girl's having a blast. Man,
Right,
I want to
yeah.
get in an
She
elevator
pressing
and
all the
push all the
buttons.
buttons. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Did I I don't know if I said she ended up pushing the door hold button, which is why it stayed open for so long. Because if you
Well,
press that button, it
mm-hmm.
stays open for 2 minutes.
Yep. Well, that makes sense. So, and
Yeah.
that answers that. Why the elevators weren't closing. Yeah. I mean, pretty cut and dry in my opinion, Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Well, listeners, what do you guys think? Was it a ghost? Was it a murderer? Was it, like we talked about? Tell us your theories on what happened to Elisa down in the comments of whatever social media you're interacting with us. As far as social media goes, just check out the Paranoid Perspective, and you will probably find us just about everywhere. Like, comment, subscribe, all the social media buzzwords and whatnot. And next week, we might have a special little surprise for some of you, so stay tuned for that. But I think that'll wrap it up today. So, as always,
Remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not watching. See you next time on The Paranoid Perspective.